Welcome to WHU Inside Business. In this interview on digital transformation, I'm sitting here together with Christine Knackfuss and Jan Ising, Senior Manager Digital Strategy and Managing Director Strategy Life Science of Accenture. Christine and Jan, it's great to have you here.
Thank you for inviting us.
When you talk with companies, you get the impression that digital transformation takes place in all industries. But actually, changes happened all the time. Can you explain what is different now? And can you assess the level of maturity of digitalization in Germany?
Sure, thank you for the question. If you look back to Peter Schumpeter more than 100 years back, disruption has always been a very major impact of our industries.
True.
What we see these days is that technology gives us a certain speed that we haven't seen before. Businesses in their own industry are transforming significantly more. Some are more affected by the customer need, others are less. And we at the Accenture Strategy have built a framework how we explain this transformation, and Christine is going to explain this framework very shortly.
Yeah, so we differentiate 3 dimensions. The first dimension is called digital customer, where we leverage digital technologies to improve the customer experience and impact top line. The second one is to leverage digital technologies for the improvement of the operations and to impact positively the bottom line. And on the other hand, you can leverage digital technologies to really open up totally new business models.
And what industries do you see as German leaders in digital transformation? And what exactly made them succeed in this process?
So if you look at the different types of digitalization, you see different branches being successful, plus the need from a customer perspective. Now, I'm very familiar with the life science industry, which is probably, compared to consumer retail, very much laid back. Why is that the case? Because it's regulated. And secondly, the customer is very much focused on a physical doctor as we speak these days. While if you look at the consumer and retail shops, for example, where we have the competition from the internet, it's very clear that these markets have to move significantly faster than we have these days. If you go through the leading examples of the industries where we have a move in the last 5 to 7 years, it's probably automotive that has gone quite a way. Industrial equipment has gone quite some way. Internet of Things, connectivity has helped very much. And also consumer has moved quite some. Yeah. Other industries are still a little bit behind, but they are catching up because also their customers are requiring it.
When talking with practitioners about digital transformation, you typically hear that so many things are important. Having a clear mobile strategy, a clever business model, balance the cultural change, invest in new technologies such as artificial intelligence. But any company who tries to cope with all of these challenges at once, they will certainly fail. What should be the key priority for these companies or these industries?
So what we see if we start digital strategy or transformation projects at our client is that there are a lot of digital activities already are going on. We also call this mushrooming. And from our experience, the first step to take is to come up with a very clear target picture. The second thing is a really good portfolio management. So really doing an analysis, what we call digital value creation. So analysis along the value chain where digital initiatives can really make an impact. And last but not least, it's really important to follow a test, build, learn approach as the market is developing so fast. So it's good to have a kind of long-term strategy with a kind of high-level milestone plan. But what we really see as good practice in the market is to really have a detailed activity roadmap, which is just for half a year, a quarter of a year, and then really following a test, build, learn approach. So come up with the strategy, but also implement it and getting the feedback, feed it back into the strategy again.
One difficulty that we observe these days is how to measure success in a digital environment. Yeah. Because if you look at large German companies or small German companies, they are very rigorous implementing successful business models or operations. Now, if something is completely new, you don't know how to measure it. So you come back to the financial KPIs, basically. And these kind of operations that we're looking at in digitalization cannot be measured like this. Looking at a company like for Google who took 10 years to actually dominate and build a market, it's something very different if you are like in a DAX 30 company that is market dominant and suddenly someone comes up in your own organization and wants to basically not jeopardize, but challenges your existing business model. So what we are talking about with many clients these days is how you can actually investigate and still measure within that ecosystem of businesses a successful so-called digital startup. Yeah. And one way how we look at this is basically you have to look at your digital initiative as a portfolio of investments, kind of like a venture fund.
And a really nice example is Daimler, who has a kind of really business model portfolio strategy. They have Mover, the intermodal travel platform. They have My Taxi. They have Car2Go. So they have kind of collaborations with Tesla for electromobility. So you really see that they build a kind of portfolio for the future, and perhaps not all business models will make it, but one of them is the big bet, and this is the kind of portfolio strategy we're talking about.
So I take it that companies should take the risk and invest in more and more startups and balance the risk across these different startups.
There's one big question that no one has yet really answered correctly and fully because no one knows how it's going to turn out. But the big question, how do you deal with new operation within your existing business model, basically? Do you have to put it on a green field outside of your core businesses to just give them enough room to breathe and develop? Or do you want to have it within your own business environment and your own ecosystem? We still recommend to do it basically outside, but you have to have a strong connectivity to your core business. Plus, we have to have a new culture of failure in our organization to actually also accept that failure is part of our successes and it doesn't harm the overarching business. And sometimes, yes, you have to bring something to their end and say, listen, this journey doesn't make sense because it just didn't work out. And that's why we see significant in the startup world, which is very painful for larger corporations to say no and thank you for initiation.
Christine and Jan, thank you very much for taking your time. Thank you.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.